Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode, a very special episode of the Florida Holidays podcast. My name's Abby. You'll notice that I'm not joined by Zara today, but I am joined by a very, very special guest indeed. Retired NASA astronaut Joan Higginbotham. Hi Joan, how are you?
I'm well, Abby. How are you doing?
I'm really well, thank you. It's so great to have you with us today. Just for our listeners, I'll just give you a little bit of a background on Joan. So Joan has logged 308 hours in space. She helped assemble the International Space Station. And she's one of only 5 African American women to have travelled to space. So they are some pretty incredible accolades that Joan has there. She's definitely a pioneer of her industry. Now a motivational speaker, STEM advocate, and an ambassador for a very big favourite of ours, the Kennedy Space Centre Visitor Complex. So welcome, Joan. Thank you so much for being here.
It is lovely to be here with you. Thank you.
Good. Are you enjoying London so far?
I am. It's only been 2 days in, but I have about 5-6 more to go. And I'm planning on having just a day of R&R on Saturday.
Good.
Taking
Good
the
for
sights.
you. Absolutely. Absolutely. I really hope that the weather stays good for you.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. So today, Joan, we've obviously got some... a lot of questions for you, but nothing to be worried about. We're bright and breezy. They'll be pretty much questions that you've heard quite a few times before. So if it's okay with you, we'll get cracking and just learn a little bit about you, I guess, first of all. So if you could just start at the beginning for us. Did you always want to be an astronaut, and what led you into this line of work?
Yeah, I did not. So my goal about the time I turned 13, I knew I wanted to be an engineer. That much I knew. And I was part of this engineering program for women and minorities. And from that program, I learned that my specialty, something that spoke to me, was electrical engineering. And I was telling a story earlier how the house that I grew up in was a 1950s house, and we had a landline. This is before the advent of cell phones, obviously. And we had this jack in the back of our den. It was four little screws, 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom, that had these wires, like a red wire, a yellow wire. And my grandmother had given us this phone that had these wires hanging out of it. I don't know why, because it was useless, right? But then I noticed the wires hanging out the phone were the same colors as the wire on the jack. And so I matched the colors of the wires. It wasn't truly like high tech. I was just matching the colors. And I got a dial tone on the phone. And so
Wow.
When my parents would go to bed, I grabbed the phone, I wired up, I called my boyfriend. And then we were done, and I unwired and I put it back. And they couldn't at the time. That's when we only had one phone company, and they would charge you by the phone call. And they were trying to figure out why the phone bill was so high.
No.
And I never.
No.
I fessed up about 5 years ago to my mom. So I wanted to be an engineer. That much I knew. I thought I was going to work for IBM, but they wanted me to work in technical sales, and I am just not someone who sells. I would rather give you all my money than to ask you to buy something.
Yeah.
So I knew that wasn't going to work out for me. And NASA called me up, a gentleman by the name Jose. He says, I have your resume. Would you be interested to moving to Florida to launch space shuttles? And I'm thinking, I wasn't really thinking about that.
Wow.
Long story short, he flew me to Florida. I saw a space shuttle. I saw a launch pad. And I was like, 5 years. I'll give it 5 years. Stayed 20. Yeah.
Wow, that is incredible. So what led you to what was your career path like? Once obviously you'd arrived in Florida, you knew that this was what you were going to do. What was the next steps?
So the first job I had was getting the shuttle ready for the engineers to fly on. One of the systems, I worked on the electrical system. So if we were flying a satellite or an experiment, whatever it needed, if it needed cooling, if it needed electricity, if it needed heating, my job was to provide the services for that. Right? About 4 years into my career, I became a project engineer, which meant I was responsible for the entire shuttle. And I had to tell management why the shuttle was ready to fly. And when I think back on that, I was like, that's a lot of responsibility for a 20-something-year-old, you know? And it was like, I thought I had the best job in the world. I can meet astronauts as they come into the center. I step outside my office building and I could watch a launch. What more could there be?
Yeah.
But I was doing a special assignment to the director of shuttle engineering, and he said to me, "You'd make a great astronaut." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." Took it as a compliment. For him, it was an action item to put in my application, and that didn't really dawn on me until he kept saying, "Did you put in your application?" So I finally did, not really expecting anything to come of it. And I get a call one day, me and these phone calls, these random phone calls. I get a phone call from the gentleman that ran the astronaut selection for by the time he retired, he did it for almost 5 decades. So just about every astronaut that got selected from 1978 on, he had a hand in it. But he asked if I'd want to come down and interview to be an astronaut. I'm like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. I go down. I didn't really understand how big a deal this was until I understood that there were 6,000 people who applied that year to be astronauts. They interviewed roughly 120 or so of us and ultimately selected 15.
Yeah.
And I was not one of the 15 selected. And then I was devastated. Like I knew the odds going in were very bad, right? I mean, just 6,000, 120, 15, right?
Yeah.
Those aren't good odds. But that really didn't stop me from being just, utterly and totally devastated. So I talked to the board and I said, well, what can I do to make myself a better candidate? They're like, more education, not what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
I just finished a master's degree. I figured I was done with my education, but I was like, okay, I guess not. Went back, applied again, and got in the second time around.
Wow. Yeah. And throughout that process of sort of elimination, what was it? An interview? Was it what did you have to do? Did you have to do, I mean, in films and things like that, you see all of this sort of really extreme training and physical things that you have to undertake. Was that part of the process, or did you not quite?
Yeah. So the interview process, and they call it the interview process. I don't know why, because it is a week long. Mind you, it has changed now, but when I was going through it was a week long. We got there on a Sunday. We left on a Friday. Mm-hmm. During that entire week, we were subjected to just nonstop psychological and physical tests.
Yeah.
So they wanted to see if we, had any medical maladies or anything like that. And there was only 1 hour of that week dedicated to a sit-down interview in front of 13 members of the astronaut selection board. So you had an hour to make your case, like, I have the right stuff.
Yeah.
Besides that, we were being poked and prodded.
Yeah.
Mentally and physically.
Yeah.
And then there's a process where they bring 20 people down at a time, and they do it every other week because it's a monumental task doing all these exams for these people. So once they've interviewed all the people, then they get to work. They look at your background. So the FBI came out and talked to my mother and my dad and other people. Yeah, they dug deep.
Yeah.
And then the doctors are going through all the medical and physical data of the tests that you've had. And it was interesting. So there's this little cadre of people who are like, I got the FBI came to my house today, so I'm still in the running. So I'm like, I'm in the running, right? So they're telling you these milestones. So I knew that I was, still in the running by having these different things happen. But the whole process takes about 6 months.
Yeah.
Everyone gets a phone call. Obviously, my first phone call was not a good one. It started off with Joni. We had so many great candidates, right? So that was my dear Joan, dear Joan phone call. The second one was much better. It's like, congratulations, you've been selected. And I was like, yes. So it's an emotionally charged process, and having to wait 6 months to find out yay or no.
Yeah,
that's tough.
And I bet it was tough for your family as well. You mentioned your parents having to be interviewed and things like that. I bet they sort of went through it all with you, I guess, didn't they?
Probably, but I think they were a little removed from it because they were in Chicago. I was in Houston. I was in Florida at the time, and so they didn't see the day to day, but they kind of knew some of the milestones and what was happening.
Yeah.
And it was funny when I called them and I said, I talked to my mom. I said I didn't get selected. And she goes, "Oh well, I guess that's that." I go, "What do you mean that's that?" I was like, "No,
Yeah.
So the stubborn streak and the competitiveness
Yes,
in me came
I
out.
will do
Exactly.
it next time.
Right.
Absolutely. And I guess that's what makes you a great astronaut as well, I suppose.
Yeah.
So once you made it, you're an astronaut, and you find out you're going to space. I mean, what must that even feel like? And
yeah, so let me step back a bit because before you become an astronaut, when you get selected, you are designated an astronaut candidate.
Okay.
That means that you have to go through the training and then you have to pass the test. And that's about a year and a half worth of training. So there's an academic piece of it. There's a physical piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
But once you go through that and you pass all the tests, there's a graduation ceremony and we get penned and we get our little silver astronaut pin. Now that is significant in that now you are a bona fide astronaut.
Okay.
And now you are eligible for a space mission.
Okay.
So while you're waiting to get assigned to a flight, you now get a day job. Because 90% of our work is not flying in space. It's doing a day job. And so I had a day job testing the software for the shuttle. It's like anything. When you have a new version of software come out on your phone, it has to be tested.
Yep.
We had to do that. That was one of my jobs. But probably one of my favorite ground jobs is what we call them, is being Capcom. That is the capsule communicator. That is the astronaut who sits in mission control and talks to the astronauts on orbit. And at that time, we were just putting the space station up, and we're building it in 1999, and I was one of the initial Capcoms for the space station. So it was neat because it was a new space vehicle. It was new because we never had people on console 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And it was great just getting to know the different astronauts and their personalities, and you train with them before they go into space, and then you work through their mission and when they come back home. So that was a really fun time for me, and it gave me really great insight on, how you live in space, how they're, the systems on the space station. So I was kind of an expert by the time I got to fly because I had been doing that job for about 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess every astronaut has got their sort of area of expertise, and you're then selected to sort of go to the space station, or you actually go out to space. You're selected on your area of expertise, I guess, or is it you wait your turn, or based on what they need at the space station, are you selected that way? So
one of the things that they're looking at in astronaut candidates is your ability to think and be trained. I say one of the biggest factors is you're trainable. Yeah. And so what they do is at that point, you don't necessarily need a doctor versus an electrical engineer. You need someone who's going to operate the systems on the space shuttle. So they teach us what they want us to know. So it doesn't really matter what your background is. Doesn't matter if you're a pilot or whatever. So you are selected. I always say there are two great mysteries in the world. One of them is how you get selected to be an astronaut. The other one is how you get assigned to a mission and why you're getting assigned to that particular mission. But once you get assigned, you are then designated a position on the crew. Yeah. You have the commander, you have the pilot. Everyone else is designated a mission specialist. There are a myriad of tasks that need to be done, and everyone has a primary, a secondary, and a tertiary task. So I was trained for my primary task of being the robotic operator. One of my crewmates was my backup, and I was her backup when she would operate the arm. Some of the guys were trained on how to be a crew medical officer, because if something should go wrong in space, you need someone who can do minor things. Yeah. Other people were trained. My secondary job was the communications officer. So I always say I was like Lieutenant Uhura on Star Trek. So I had to configure the communication systems. We had one to talk internally on the shuttle. We had one to talk down to the ground. We had one to communicate with the space station. So that was my other job. And my tertiary job was taking 6,000 pounds of supplies and equipment that we brought up on the shuttle and transferring it over to the space station.
Wow.
So we are all taught what they need us to do for our tasks on our mission.
Yeah. Wow. It's incredible, isn't it? Absolutely incredible. So if you had to choose just one, what would you say is your career highlight?
I say
there may be more than one.
Yeah, I say I'm going to have to cheat. It's like naming your favorite child.
Yeah.
I'm going to say two things. Well, obviously, one of them is flying in space, right? But the second one, which is a close second to flying in space, was just the people that I got to meet and work with. My class was truly international because we were building the International Space Station, and there were 15 countries that joined together to do this.
Yeah.
So in my class, we had people from Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Sweden, I'm forgetting one, and the United States. And I got to meet Japan, if I didn't say that. I got to meet all these people and share their culture and have me share my culture with them. Yeah. And that was truly special because we, through all the training and all the unique things that we did, bonded together as a family. And it's nice to have like an international family.
Yeah, of course it is. And it's so interesting that you should say that because I think, you know, a big thing of my jobs, things that I really value in my job is the people. So it's interesting that even when you're an astronaut, that it still is the people that you've got around you in the workplace that make it that extra special experience, isn't it?
It is. And, you know, you, like I said, you just share some really unique experiences with these people. And then I got to fly with actually one of my classmates, so that was really special.
Bonds you, I guess. So Joan, if it's okay with you, could we move on to some questions from our listeners?
Absolutely.
I will warn you in advance that they are very food related heavy. So first of all, we'll take a question from Samantha. Thank you, Samantha, for submitting your question. So, what is the food like in space?
The food, believe it or not, is really tasty if you can get over the presentation, right? Because
that it's in a packet?
Yes. So the food comes two ways. It is called MRE, meal ready to eat. It's what they give the soldiers in the field. So it just comes in this army green package.
Right.
And the only thing that we can do, the only way we cook on the shuttle is you can heat something up, or you can add water to it. So those are our two modes of cooking. So yes, you too can become a gourmet chef on the shuttle. And so you had MREs, but then you had food that was dehydrated. And it is rock hard, right? And you just add water and all of a sudden it comes to life. But the good thing is we have a taste testing class where you can taste everything that is available to you to fly. And I'm thinking, oh my, he gave us a little cup full of everything. I'm like, that's not enough. But by the time you leave the class, you are so full because you have tasted all this stuff.
Right.
For me, the best thing was the beef enchiladas, really good and spicy. My commander's favorite was shrimp cocktail. He had a shrimp cocktail at every meal. I was like, that's too much. The worst thing, which I did not fly, was yogurt. Because first of all, it's not refrigerated. So how can you call it yogurt?
So would you add water to that?
Yeah, and it was just the consistency.
Just wasn't right. And there's nothing worse than warm yogurt, is there? Let's face it.
Yeah, room temperature yogurt. Yum. Yeah. Took a hard pass.
I get that. So your beef enchiladas. Did you add water to those, or could you warm
it? No, I'm sorry. It was a warm up meal.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So when they gave you all the different foods to test, would they just literally send you up with the food that you'd said, yes, I like that, and cut out everything else, or did you just get what you were?
So there are two options.
Served.
You can have the dietitians. You made a checklist. I like this and this. You could have given it to the dietitians, and they would have made a meal plan based on your likes.
Right.
But I looked at that, and they were having you have 2,200 calories a day. I was like, that's crazy. That's way too much. I was like, I'm gonna do my own menu. So I chose my own menu. I said, these are the things I like, and then I had them put it together. But yeah, I did my own menu just so I could control what I was eating.
Yeah. 2,200 calories sounds great, but it's a lot. It's a lot of food.
It's a lot, especially since you're not exercising the way you would here on the ground.
Yeah. I bet you are still exercising in a way though, aren't you? Because you've got to be able to control your limbs and everything. Is that right or no?
No. So you're really only using your upper body, but if you go from one place to another, you push off from one surface, right?
Yeah.
And you're not using your legs at all.
Right.
If you want to do something like when you want to brush your teeth, you want to be stationary. So there are foot loops that you can, stabilize yourself, so you're not moving around when you're doing these things. But you really quickly realize how your legs start to become kind of like spaghetti, right? And I'll tell you a quick story. We had landed, and I was on the flight deck. So there's the upstairs and the downstairs to the shuttle. I'm on the flight deck. That's the upstairs. They clear the downstairs first, and then there's the pilot, the commander. I was here, and mission specialist too. So I was the last person to get off the shuttle. They always bring somebody on to help you off. So my crew support person came on, and he says, "Are you ready to get off?" And I said, "Yeah." So I stand up, and I immediately just fall back in my seat. My legs are so rubbery. And he says, "Well, take off your parachute." I go, "Why didn't I think about that? That's 40 pounds. Took off my parachute. I stood up, fell back down in my seat. I'm thinking, okay, I'm an engineer. I can make this happen.
I can work my own legs.
Right. So I said, okay, I'm going to use the seat in front of me. I will use it as a brace to help me stand up. I did that. I kind of shuffled over to the edge. And because you're upstairs, you have to now turn around and go down a ladder. Turned around, went down the ladder. That's fine. The hatch is behind you and at a lower position. I turned around, walked to the hatch, got on my knees to crawl out the hatch. And there's a flight doctor on either side of the hatch. And I just burst out in laughter. And I said, I've fallen and I can't get up. I couldn't stand up. And so each doc kind of hooked their arm up under my arm, and they lifted me up. And as I start walking, I am slapping my feet on the ground because I feel like I weigh 500 pounds. Mm-hmm. Gravity is really heavy, and you don't know that until you leave it and you come back. Yeah. So yeah, it was a little challenging.
Right, so we've got a question here from Aid. I'm not entirely sure where we're going with this one, but what does the ISS smell like? If you heat up a pie for dinner, will it smell like that for a week, as you can't just throw the windows open?
Well, that is very true. Yeah, there's no windows or anything like that to help dissipate the smell. But the good thing is, whenever you, we'll put in quotes, cook something or whatever you have, we have a series of fans and filters, and we have something that we call a scrubber. And because it is a closed environment, there's off-gassing, and there are things that you want to pull out. So you want to pull out carbon dioxide, and you want to pull out any trace contaminants. And because you're doing that, it pulls out any smells. And so if you happen to cook something that's a little smelly, wait a couple of hours, and the fan will recycle all the air, and it'll be nice and clean and fresh. Good. Right. Mm-hmm.
So we've got another question here. So if we buy a packet of Astronaut food, first of all, do they have the beef enchiladas? If not, what would be your next recommendation?
No, I'm sorry, no beef enchiladas. Oh. So I would have to recommend, only because I'm dying to try it myself, and it's my favorite flavor, I would say the mint chocolate chip freeze-dried ice cream. So if mint chocolate chip is not your jam, I would just say try one of the flavors, but the freeze-dried ice cream. I'm curious about that myself. It's not real astronaut food.
Right.
But yes, but it's a big seller, and people really like it.
Wow.
Yeah.
What would be your must-see, your most recommended must-see attraction?
again, like asking about your favorite child. If I had to name my favorite child, I would say the astronaut training experience, because it is a 5-hour immersive experience, and it really goes through a lot of things that we go through when we train.
Right.
And if you really want to know or get some of a flavor of what it's like to train to be an astronaut, that is it. I mean, it's pretty cool. So that would be my like must see. And then I'm going to name a second favorite child. I would say do the virtual reality moon mission.
Right.
That's pretty darn cool. It's a little competitive and
Yeah.
a little fun, a little video game-ish, and so you get to do that through virtual reality. That was kind of cool.
It's very hands-on, isn't it, at the Space Centre? There is a lot of things that you can... It's not just people sort of talking to you, and there's a lot of hands-on things that can sort of get you to feel those things that you feel when you're in space,
right?
Without obviously your normal sort of average Joe being able to ever experience. There's a lot of that, isn't there, at the Space Centre? I noticed that when I went.
Yes, there is. And from someone like me who's very visual, and if I can touch and see things, it cements whatever I'm doing.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really great. I love touching things. Yeah. I love doing the whole VR thing.
Yeah.
So yes, it is very interactive. And I think that's really great for kids, and even big kids, right? Because you get to put your hands on things and build things and make things happen. And that's very satisfying and very gratifying.
Yeah. What do you miss most about being an astronaut now?
Well,
I mean, I guess you'll always be an astronaut.
Yes. So you always have the title astronaut, but obviously since I have retired, I am not eligible for space flights anymore. I miss the fact that I did not get to see the space station in its completed form. When I went, we were roughly halfway done building it. And at the time, there was only one window in the entire space station. It was in the Russian segment. And on flight day 8, I made it a point to go over and see and just look out the window, because it's just breathtaking. But now there is a module they call the cupola. It's like a dome. It has 6 windows around the perimeter and 2 top. So it's a 360-degree view of the world. That has got to be absolutely spectacular. I would give anything for like 5 minutes in the cupola.
Just to say. Oh, fantastic. What has been your most frightening moment in space? Any hair raising moments?
Yes. So I would say, as a rookie, your first flight, the worst thing you want to do is just make a huge mistake, right? But we're all human and we're going to make mistakes. So my goal was, I want to make a $10 mistake, not a $10 million mistake.
Yeah.
And I made my
pressure. That is a lot of pressure.
So I made my $10 mistake about an hour and a half into the mission, and I was golden after that. I was like, I'm good. It was a little small faux pas, and that kind of got all the jitters out, and I was good after that.
Yeah. So we've got another question here from one of our 3-year-old listeners, Robin. So Robin wants to know, what is your favourite colour, and please can you say hello?
I would love to say hello to Robin. Hi, Robin, and thank you so much for the question. My favorite color is blue, although I love all colors. I love red and purple and just very deep, rich colors. But if I had to pick one, blue. Blue's my favorite, which is very apropos.
I mean, that just works out perfect. And blue looks good on you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you have any advice for any of our young viewers?
Yes.
Especially young women hoping to get into the engineering or aerospace work.
Yeah.
Any tips?
Absolutely. So for me, it would be 3 things. The first one is be bold enough to say yes. Sometimes we have opportunities come our way, like you'd be a great astronaut. I'm thinking, no way. And we may not feel ready for those opportunities, but I say take a chance, because you grow when you stretch yourself.
Yes.
Say yes and grow into that opportunity.
Yeah.
The second thing I would say is to find your tribe. And by that, I mean find a support system. And I think this is just not only relevant in if you're trying to be an astronaut or your career, I think it's just great in life. Find people who are going to support you and mentor you, and then be a mentor to somebody else. So if you're rising in your career, take somebody with you and show him or her the way. Yeah. And the third thing I think I would say is own your voice. Early in my career, I really tried to blend in and be like everybody else. Obviously, looking at me, I'm not going to blend in very much in that field. And I say, use your voice for good. Let people know what you think. Let them understand that you are in this place because you earned your spot. So use your voice. So those are the three things I'd say, especially for young girls. If you're going into a STEM career, you may not see a whole lot of other women there. So it's very important that you stand up, be proud of who you are, and have confidence in yourself.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good advice. That's great advice. Thank you. So what was your favourite pastime while you were in space? And do you have time to pass, or are you constantly...
For a shuttle mission, it was more like a sprint. So you had 13 days and you had to get so much done. And trust me, they way overprescribed what you had to do. And us being type A's, we were going to get it all done.
Yeah.
And so we didn't have a lot of free time. It wasn't until flight day 8, so the 8th day of our mission, where we actually had nothing on our schedules. And that's the day I floated over to the Russian module and just looked out the window for about 45 minutes or so. That would be my favorite pastime, because just looking at the world, it is so beautiful. It's so incredibly beautiful. And I think the most beautiful thing is that you don't see borders or divisions or anything. You just see one world. And I think that's how we were on the space station. We were just one world. We all came from different places, but we were there to accomplish one goal there collaboratively. So, yeah.
Incredible. Do you think that we will ever set foot on another planet? And when do you think that would be?
So we've done it so far, and we're about to repeat it. So we're going to go back to the moon. Next year, we're having 4 astronauts go, but they're just going to circle the moon. Okay. They're not going to land. But I think within the next decade or so that we will have people on Mars, and hopefully it won't be a 9-month journey. That's kind of the long pole in the whole thing now. It's right now it's going to be a one-way, and it's going to be at least 9 months. Right. But I think we'll develop the technology that will get us there quicker and get us back. So that's kind of where I see it going. And if all goes according to plan, in like 2030, we'll start putting modules on the moon and having people continuously live on the moon. And that's not too far-fetched. I mean, we've had astronauts in space. In November, it'll be 25 years consecutively. Astronauts have lived on board for 25 years. So it's not as, far-fetched as we once thought.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So we're just on to our final question here. This is from Natalie. Do you think that we're alone in the universe? And if not, have you seen anything that leads you to believe that?
So I think we'd have to be pretty conceited to think we're the only ones. And I don't know if there are other people. I don't know. I don't think there are these creatures that are green with big bulbous heads and pointy eyes. I don't think that's what's in the universe, but I don't know. Maybe it's a single cell amoeba or something, but I think there's something else out there. That's my personal belief. I have nothing to back me up on that. Just Joan Higginbotham's belief. But I think there has to be something else out there besides us.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. Okay, Joan, so we've finished all of our questions. So I just want to say a huge thank you for making the time for us today. It's been a real privilege, and I know that our listeners will think it's a real treat. So thank you so much, Joan, and I hope the weather holds out for you for the rest of the week, and that you have a great bit of free time on Saturday, and a safe journey.
Thank you. I've enjoyed our time together, Abby. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay then, guys, that's it for another episode of the Florida Holidays podcast. Don't forget that you can join us on Spotify or YouTube. My name's Abby, and thank you so much for listening to us, and we'll see you really soon.